Okay, so what happens if you were in a car accident? The first thing you need to do is make sure that you're okay. So, car accident happens. Number one, are you okay? Number two, anybody else in your vehicle, are they okay? And by okay, I don't mean 100% okay. I mean just, is anyone dying? Are you dying? Can you move? There was an accident not too long ago that I was actually present at. I was not involved in the accident, but it occurred in front of me just as I was approaching where I needed to be. So I parked, I went over and checked on the people, and it was teenagers getting ready to go to a formal dance, and they weren't paying attention. They pulled out in front of a woman, and she collided with them. The teenagers were in shock, and they were wandering around, and they were wandering in the street. This is a 45-mile-per-hour road, and these teenagers were wandering around in the street, and I just gently guided them back over to where the car is, and I got them over into the grassy area. I said, stay here, call your parents. I went over to the car that was still in the travel lane, and I asked her how she was doing. I asked her if she could move. She said no, she couldn't move. I asked her if she needed to call anyone, if she'd called anyone. She said she'd already called for emergency services, and I said, is there anything I can do for you? And she was just she's a little out of it. She's just sitting there. So I just stayed at the scene until first responders got there to respond to that accident. As soon as they got there, I let them know the woman in the car didn't think that she could move, and that the teenagers had called their moms and that somebody was coming for them soon. And then I got out of their way. If you are the one that is in the accident, understand that it was an accident. You weren't planning it, so whatever your body is doing to react to that is normal for your body. You're probably going to have an adrenaline rush. You're going to be a little bit out of it. You're not going to feel the pain of whatever it is you've got going on, and that is okay. That is normal. You need to make sure that you are okay. Everyone else is okay. Call 911. Tell them where you are and that you just got into an accident, and whether or not you need, what type of help you need. So they should send some kind of law enforcement officer to the site to write up a accident report of that incident. But let them know if you think you need an ambulance. That would be a really good time to let them know that you think you need an ambulance. After those things are taken care of, then you can call your insurance company. So all of this is happening within this little bubble of 10, 15, 20 minutes. Within that time frame, somebody else should be on the scene to start taking care of everything. You can call your insurance company and you let them know what happened. You don't say, I didn't mean to, or that. You just stick to the facts. I got into an accident. This is what happened. I was traveling, someone else hit me, whatever it is. And they will have other questions they'll ask you, but don't try to read into other people's minds, and understand that you are not thinking clearly unless you are used to being in traumatic type situations. You are not going to be processing what's happening. After this, it's a really good idea to go to the emergency room to get checked out. If you have liability insurance, typically on there is some form of med pay or other insurance that covers the cost of you getting checked out. And that's everybody who was in your vehicle, everybody who was in the other vehicle. Go get checked out. You want to just make sure that you're okay. So even if you think, oh, it's just a fender bender, you need to understand that you are likely more hurt than your car is hurt, but you don't know how much you're hurt. So it's good to go get checked out. At the emergency room or urgent care, that is when they'll do x-rays. They'll go head to toe, and you need to, if you are aware that you have a problem, that your ankle hurts, or that your arm hurts, or your head hurts, whatever it is, you need to make sure that they put that in the paperwork, because sometimes the emergency services, they're busy, they've got a lot of other things going on, and they want to go get to the next person, but you need to make sure that they understand that you are a priority as well. And even though you're in shock right now and you're not completely aware of all the things going on, you need to make sure that all the things that you're dealing with get put into those notes. If you wait a day or two and you still feel bad and then choose to go to the emergency room, you can still do that, but at that point, because you've waited 2 or 3 days, the likelihood of them ordering imaging is very low. The likelihood of them taking your situation seriously is very low. If you think at all that you are hurt, you need to go from the crash scene to urgent care or the emergency room and get your situation documented. After that, that is when you would call us. You would call an accident injury center like ours, or an attorney who can recommend an accident injury center in your area for you to go in and get all the rehabilitation treatment that you need. So what that typically consists of is anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks of conservative care, of making sure that your muscles, your joints, your ligaments, all of those things are healing properly. And if you do have something more serious, if you have torn muscles, if you have torn ligaments, if you have a disc that ruptured, if you have broken bones, it's going to take you longer than that to heal. And so one of the things that an attorney will be able to do for you is tell you what the nearest one to where you're living is. Or sometimes people prefer to be seen near wherever they work, because they may have a long commute and it just works out easier for them. There are only a few places that really want to take care of people who have been in car accidents, because there's a lot of paperwork involved dealing with attorneys, especially attorneys where we're going to respect whichever attorney you choose to go with. But there are a lot of attorneys that aren't as good as some of the others, and so occasionally we'll get a person who has chosen an attorney for whatever reason that we know they're just not that they don't do things in a timely fashion, they don't get good settlements for people, they're just kind of not that good. We will still treat you the same way we would treat anybody else. It just, on the backside, it does get a little bit frustrating to treat people who've got bad attorneys, not because of you, but because of the attorney. But understand that there are also offices that are only willing to take these cases because we're set up to take these cases. So on average, we're not going to get paid for a year or two after your case is closed out. And then the attorney, if you have a good attorney, they are going to get a good settlement. They're going to pay all the bills. You're going to take home a very nice check. They're going to keep a very nice check for themselves. If you have a bad attorney, they are going to try and nickel dime everybody, and they're going to be calling us, trying to argue our bill with us, even though they used our bill to argue with the insurance company that all of this treatment was necessary. And then they're going to turn right around and argue with us that it wasn't. And yeah, they can get a little bit more money for you doing that, but at the end of the day, we don't like working with them because they make the whole process very unpleasant, and they will make that process unpleasant for you as well. So we've had a couple of patients tell us, I'm thinking of one attorney specifically who said some very negative things about a patient to their face, and basically told women that they were stupid, and that they needed to be quiet and just let him do his job and stop bothering him, and just, we don't like working with those attorneys, and we do not recommend those attorneys. So we have a few attorneys in the area who have really, really good reputations for getting big settlements, but if the cost is that they're going to be verbally abusive to our patients, even if they would get a really good settlement, we know other attorneys in the area who will get that same level of settlement without inflicting any verbal abuse on our patients. And so we don't typically recommend that you go with one of the attorneys who's going to make you feel bad that you were hurt.